Well, welcome out there once again to my program. Always a pleasure to be here, and always a pleasure to have you out there in the audience. What's taking place is, maybe we can get that adjusted. There you go. Okay, now they got me in the picture. All right. We've had a lot of developments in the city, a lot of issues that have come about recently. And what we're going to do is, I'm going to have a guest who's going to call in. And we're going to talk about some of the city issues. There are a number of things that have developed recently. Of course, you know, after all the snow, there's been a huge snow removal bill that's going to have to be dealt with in regards to, well, are people going to have to pay higher fees for things that they stop by at the City Hall to get or use? Are taxes going to go up? Will the administration decide to override Prop 2.5? As you know, Prop 2.5 is a fancy way to say that they can only raise taxes on city real estate property by 2.5%. But sometimes they seek an override, which has to be legislative approved. City Council has to be involved with that. How will the city raise money? That's one of the issues that is going to be confronted by this administration. We also have other things that are very pertinent to the city, which is the general finances of the city. So, I have a guest who was online, and you are familiar with him. He's CJ Ferry. He's been involved with city politics, city issues for many, many years, and he's been somewhat of a regular on my program. So, well, let's see. We got CJ out there?
I'm here.
Okay, CJ. Can you hear me? Can you hear me well?
I can hear you.
Okay, CJ. So, CJ, let's start off with the city finances. The transition team has released a report, and you're pretty familiar with that report. Can you give us a general idea what the report has said?
It's an absolute work of fiction. An absolute work of fiction. So, I mean, it gets to be very interesting because all they did was restate this year's budget and make projections for next year's budget based upon what happened this year. And in this disclosure, they very clearly state that they were $4.3 million, $4.3 million short. They didn't even have the money in the budget for it.
So that's last year's budget was 4.3, they determined?
That the budget that ends June 30th of this year,
okay,
they're $4.3 million short.
The budget that's going to end this year in June?
Right, correct.
All right, and
as a matter of fact, what they actually stated, and I'm bringing the report up as I'm speaking to you here, I love what they called it. They called it the final draft of the Part 1 executive summary, which is very interesting because they say that what this mayor needs to do is clearly articulate that Fall River has been living beyond its fiscal means.
Whoa, is that anything new?
This is what I said
mean,
today. I said, really? We really needed to be told that.
You've been saying that. A number of people have been saying that for years.
Well, you know, Chip, Dan Robillard, and myself, you know, the unholy trinity, the unholy trio, have been saying this for the longest time. And, you know, the city council has replied on a regular and recurring basis that, you know, oh, no, we're fine, we're fine. We even told them last year, before they approved this budget, which, by the way, the only city councilor who had the cojones to say no was Dan Rigo.
Well, he's been complaining about the budget for a long, long time. He said that it doesn't add up, it doesn't make any sense, and he's called for a forensic audit.
Right, and you know, Dan Robillard, Chip, and myself, we've been demanding that as well. But I think what's really interesting is that in the next two bullets that they put in this report, on the first page of this report, they say that they need to prepare the citizens of Fall River and both past and present employees of city government for the shared sacrifices that gradually will be required to return the city's finances to a healthy state.
Now, when
and
they talk about
a decisive course, you know what? That's bull.
When they talk about sacrifices, are they talking about salary reductions across the board?
I think they're talking about that. I think they're talking about the loss of jobs. I think they're talking about the reduction of pensions, increased expenses on our retirees. And, you know, it goes over and over and over again. And the problem that we have, more importantly, is that this report also talks about the fact that they are going to have to increase fees. And
now, did they mention
when you start listening?
Did they mention what fees? Did they mention what fees? CJ, did they mention what fees might have to be increased?
Well, right off the top, they're talking about water and sewer fees.
Well, those are fees or costs?
They're saying fees.
I mean, when you go down for a license, you have to pay a fee. Like if you're a dog license, you pay a fee.
And this mayor keeps changing the dates on everything, okay? Now the full report is going to come out March 26th. Oh, now it's going to be the first week of April. Oh, now it's going to be the second week of April. And now, according to his latest report, which was at 10 minutes to 5 today, the mayor is going to release a full economic development plan this summer.
Well, what does that got to do with the city's finances?
Well, this is what I want to know.
All right. So, a full economic development plan. Well, we've heard a lot about that before. There's a master plan which is supposed to enhance economic development, and that master plan doesn't seem to ever come off the shelf.
No, exactly. That plan is you know, this whole report is full of crap. It's absolutely 100% full of crap. $276.4 million, okay, for fiscal year 2015, which ends in June, all right, of which $4.3 million had to come out of what they call one-time revenues. One-time revenues. One-time revenues is all kinds of other crazy stuff, okay, like free cash and, you know, back taxes. It's just craziness. And when you start looking at this stuff, you know, we had nothing. And then he turns around and he blames the salary expenses on the budget heads who fail, obviously, according to this mayor, who have failed miserably because their overtime budgets have been abused.
Well, the fire department, it was reported the other day at the city council meeting, overtime is close to $1 million. Now let me go on to another subject, and that's the revelation that City Administrator Kathy Ann Viveris is seeking employment with the town of Swansea.
Correct.
Now
she's one of the top 3 contenders in Swansea, and Sean Kadim is one of the top 3 contenders in Somerset.
But Kathy Ann, do you think she is sensing something that's going on with city finances and the administration?
Well, I think Kathy Ann knows that come the end of this term, she's out of a job. Once her contract is over,
okay,
she's
why,
done.
Why is that?
Well, because, number one, her contract expires at the end of the previous mayor's term.
Right.
But they didn't put that it was coterminous with, you know, a recall or something. So she knows at the end of the year she's out of a job. So right now she's looking for employment. So she's jumping ship. And if Swansea takes her, God bless Swansea, because they're going to wish to God they never had. Okay? It's just like Somerset.
Well, what's that?
If they take Sean Kadim, which Sutters and LeBeau and all of them, all friends with Sean and Kevin Aguirre, and this is where the political,
well, if Kathy Ann leaves, what's that going to do with the administration? Is that going to be a something that.
That will be another position that the mayor gets to fill.
Well, but I'm getting to the question, will that cause a problem on the 6th floor? Or will her leaving be smooth and nothing to worry about? Because she does go,
I
she does go
believe that
before
if
the
she leaves-
council.
I firmly believe that if she leaves, there'll be no problem. I think the transition will be very smooth, simple, and easy. I think the problem is not going to be from her leaving. I think the problem is going to be the fact that now the mayor has another position that he can fill with another political crony. Because as we know, they're all political cronies.
Well, you have to have someone with expertise. I mean, she does know what she's doing. I mean, in a sense that she appears before the city council and other boards. Who would be available if she left next week? Who's going to take her position?
My prediction would be that the current chief of staff, former police chief of Rainham, would be looking at taking on the job of city administrator, and then the chief of staff job would probably go to Sam Sutter's former chief of staff at the DA's office, Lisa Kaminsky, who is now on the transition team.
Okay, let's go on to a more serious subject. Potholes. How is your vehicle holding up?
I've been lucky. I'm not driving. My leg incapacitates me. I can't drive. But I'll tell you right now, the problem we have with potholes is that, number one, we do not maintain our streets. We don't put any investment into repairs in Fall River. Everything is all about replacements. And, it took Seabury Street probably 8-10 years with craters before they decided to fix it at the end of the Flanagan administration, and that job is still incomplete.
Okay. Pay-as-you-throw, is it dead?
No, as a matter of fact, they're depending on pay-as-you-throw.
Well,
and one of the things that
when you go around the city on trash collection day, you don't see too many purple bags. So,
no, you don't. And the thing is that the city is depending on that money.
But
if they don't clear over $3 million in pay-as-you-throw revenue, the city will be operating in a more severe deficit.
When they came out with this financial report, did they mention anything about pay-as-you-throw and whether it's keeping up with the amount of money that they budgeted into, the budget?
No, that money is being, I guess, included, and let me look exactly. Okay, that money's included in the sanitation budget under the enterprise fund. Now, currently, the enterprise fund for this fiscal year, okay, one-time monies so far, I guess, within the enterprise has been recurring since fiscal year 2015 alone. 4 enterprises are using $1,372,083 from retained earnings. Over the last 4 years, the total use of one-time money was $7,961,000 within the enterprises, broken down as follows: sewer, $3,900,000; water, $1,100,000; EMS, $1,100,000; and sanitation, $866,000. Now, in this year's budget, they added $3 million into the budget coming from
pay-as-you-throw.
Pay-as-you-throw. Now,
and if that money doesn't come in?
If that money doesn't come in, this budget is going to be seriously deficient because, remember,
so
they
in other
took
words,
that money out of sanitation to put into fire department salaries, which was in and of itself a whole line of bull. I mean, right at the top of the line. Now,
so the
what they want to do,
the amount of money that they discovered is not in the budget, and they'll have expenses for. You have to add in pay-as-you-throw. There could be a possible deficiency there insofar.
Correct.
So,
and the problem that they're going to have is this. Number one, and I have a copy of the contract here. The contract has been in breach since August of last year.
Pay-as-you-throw contract.
The pay-as-you-throw contract. Therefore, the city doesn't have to honor it, and neither does Waste Zero.
And neither does apparently the people in Fall River don't have to put their trash in purple bags because there is no way to force them if they don't comply.
Exactly.
There's no ordinance.
There's no ordinance,
There's
and the
no
city
law.
council already knows that if they try to force an ordinance in place, if they try to make this happen, okay, they're going to have a huge problem
Well,
because they won't get reelected.
Let me ask
Now-
you this. Now, how did the previous administration come to the conclusion that people would voluntarily put their trash in purple bags, and if they didn't, they were going to force them to do that without a law?
Well, because the previous administration, like most lawyers, think that we're just going to do what we want to do until such time as it's challenged in court. And actually, Flanagan did say that. And Flanagan instituted fees.
If they took someone to court, what law would they use? There's no law.
Well, and that's why the magistrate and the housing court just keeps throwing them out.
Yeah.
Now, again, the contract that we're speaking about, which comes directly from the city, and I'm looking at the contract right now. They entered into the contract on July 14th of 2014, which was the effective date of the contract. And in the contract, it specifically says that they must, not will, not shall, but they must implement an ordinance to enforce the pay-as-you-throw program.
Which has not happened.
Which has not happened. And they were supposed to do that by August 14th, okay?
Last year, yeah.
Right.
So there's a problem there in regards to enforce. Let me get on to another thing that we haven't heard too much about lately. The incident down on the waterfront where the previous mayor pulled out a gun, allegedly, and a city councilor made a report to the police department, and a former DA hired or put on a special prosecutor to look into that. Have we heard anything additional?
Nope. The statement we've received to date from spokespeople and the mayor's office is that federal prosecutors take their time on everything, and so he's taking his time on this particular case, and he'll get to it when he gets to it, which I think is a crock.
Do we know of anybody that's been interviewed?
Yes, we do know that interviews had taken place. Jazel has been interviewed, Paul De Silva has been interviewed, the mayor's been interviewed. So there's been several interviews, but we don't know what's going on with it.
All right, so there's something going on. We don't know exactly. Is that
right?
What you're saying?
Right.
Okay.
And and the problem that we have again is that that we're not being kept. There's no transparency. We're not being kept in the loop of what's happening, and it makes it kind of questionable at best what will happen, especially to the people involved in this whole investigation.
Let me ask you this other thing, because now you're CJ Ferry, and what's the name of your news organization?
We're part of South Coast Media, and we're Spindle City Straight Talk.
Okay. Now you do a lot of investigative work, looking into different aspects of city issues, etc. What about the 19, or was it 22 windows?
22 windows, again, not answered. No one's investigating it. Nobody's looking at it. We don't know why. We don't know how. There's no records on the books. But then again, the auditor, Larson, which I have a copy of that audit too, says that it's no surprise because the city can't document where any of their money is, and their records are sparse.
So 22 windows gets installed, no building permit, no work order, no one has any idea of who hired the contractor. Staging is up to the 6th floor. I mean, that's a major operation. And the person who was awarded the contract, so to speak, who owns a glass
company, owes the city millions of dollars, and
well, hundreds of thousands at least,
Yep.
And he issued a bogus check for $50,000. So that that investigation is, as far as you know, is where?
Again, no transparency. We don't know.
We don't. Okay.
We don't know. But real quickly, getting back to the pay-as-you-throw.
Yeah.
One of the parts of the contract, which people need to understand this, is that built into the contract is cost adjustments, okay? Automatically, every year, not shall, not may, it's shall, the annual percentage increase in the bag goes by the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, for the urban consumer in the U.S.
So
all items plus 3%.
So the price of bags could go up.
Right. And that's only the first of the increases. So it's a Consumer Price Index plus 3%. So if the Consumer Price Index goes up 8%, then you add 3 to that, so it's automatically an 11% price increase in the bags. Then there is a resin cost adjustment. The resin cost adjustment is the cost of the resin or the greater of 20% from a benchmark resin rate on the effective date of the agreement.
Now, what are you talking about when you mention?
Okay, resin is used to make the bags.
Oh, all right.
Okay, so whatever Waste Zero was paying for the resin benchmark, which, by the way, is not listed here, okay, they can raise the rate the greater of the cost of the resin increase or 20%.
And it's a 5-year contract.
And it's a 5-year contract.
Now, the city council had nothing to do with this contract.
No.
As far
But
as
by virtue of the fact that the city council accepted it and funded it, they accepted the contract. And that the people who signed this contract were Will Flanagan, Kathy Ann Viveris, Ken Pacheco, Dr. Henry Valancourt, and approved at the Foreman Manor by Elizabeth Souza. And then, of course, Jay Carlin Cunningham from Waste Zero. So that's the contract there. But here's the kicker. Yesterday, the mayor and city councilor Mike Maioza came out and stated that the voters are not going to be asked for an approval of a 2.5 override, but will likely be paying higher water and sewer rates. Councilor Mike Maioza also says that it's not easy to fix Fall River finances. Sutter indicated that hitting net school spending for 2015 and 2016 is going to be difficult to achieve, and says that enterprise funds for water, sewer, EMS, and sanitation need to be replenished because the last 4 years the funds have not kept up with expenses. In other words, we're going to raise the cost of water, sewer, ambulance service, and trash removal.
now you think this is going to engender taxpayer revolt?
To be very honest,
I mean, you had people out there, the recallers, and the people who signed the recall petition.
there were over 5,500 people who signed the recall petition.
You think
5,500 people who were fed up with this. And for some reason, this city council and this new mayor, who was elected because of the recallers, cannot see that the people aren't happy.
Well,
the people are not happy. And it's so bad that in Saugus yesterday, who had their recall, they recalled all their selectmen. They got rid of them.
in Saugus, well, that's interesting.
Okay? So the voter change, the voter opinion, the voter apathy is coming to an end.
You think, once again, you think there might be a taxpayer revolt?
I think there will be.
And
because I'm telling you now, if water and sewer go up, if taxes are going to go up, they already said it, they're going to raise it 2.5%, which is the max they can do, okay? Fees are going to go up. They're looking at raising the fees, obviously, on the pay-as-you-throw, because that's the only fee they can hit them with. They're going to raise the fees for birth certificates, marriage licenses, death certificates, all of those services, licensing fees. As a matter of fact, I was at the Historic Commission yesterday, which, very few people even know they exist, and they were talking about attaching a fee to property owners who have properties 50 years or older for them to decide whether or not they should be able to demolish them.
well, let me mention this, and of course this is election year.
Yes, it is.
And the mayor is up for re-election. City council's up for election in the school committee. Now, if let's talk about the city council. If they start tampering with taxes and fees, do you think they're going to put themselves in jeopardy as far as being reelected?
I think they already know that. I think they already know that.
And do you think that is going to be, on their part, hesitation as far as going along with the administration? If they want,
I think you're right. I think there's going to be a lot of hesitation because you know what? It's too little, too late. Mike Mioza said at the safety meeting last Friday, that I was not aware that this $200,000 for overtime was in the budget. Meanwhile, going back to last June...
But it was $1 million for the fire department alone.
Right. But going back to last June, during the budgetary hearings, he said, don't you think $200,000 for fire department overtime is a little... isn't enough, that there's not enough money there? So back in June, he said that. Friday, he said he missed that in the budget. Do your job. Do your job.
Now, you know, we're getting down to the end of the program, and you've been watching the city council meetings, and you've probably been there in the audience. A lot of people still, citizens' input time, have a lot to say, and a lot of them are very angry. It doesn't seem to have abated since the
and it's
times...
not going to. It's not going to. And honestly, what I would like to see, and I'm actually predicting, here's my prediction. This is what's going to happen. Between now and November, you are going to see a grassroots movement of all the people that go out and vote, of all the people in Fall River. The people are going to come out, and they're going to say very clearly, we're not going to take this anymore.
Okay, let me...
This cannot happen.
This is the last question, CJ. How is your organization that you've been putting together, the 501c4?
Oh, the Citizens Alliance. We're still moving forward, but I think this quote applies very clearly to that organization. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has.
Okay.
And that can be credited to Margaret Mead.
Okay, that concludes. CJ, thank you.
Yep.
Good to have you call in. I appreciate your phone call.
I always appreciate being on the show, and as a matter of fact, I'll be there next week for the panel show.
Okay, and I just want to make an announcement that we've got the Miller Monument Ceremony. That's Memorial Day. That's in May. That could be May 26th. I don't have a calendar in front of me. That's going to be at the Miller Monument at the intersection of Shove Street and South Main. There'll be a ceremony there at 11:30 in the morning. And remember, Miller was captured in the Philippines, went on the Bataan Death March, survived, but died in the Japanese prisoner of war camp. His body was never returned to the United States, and the monument, that ground over there, is a symbolic resting place. So hope to see you there, and thank you for watching.